All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to this webinar about large language models. I'm very happy that there are so many people here today, and I'm very excited to tell you about what we have discovered so far about these models. And yes, I hope you enjoy. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jelle. I work at VIKTOR, and I help clients build applications on our platform. Before I worked here, I worked at a construction company, Van der Herik. And here I worked as a tender engineer. My background is also in civil engineering. So at that point, this was a very logical decision to work here. And what I noticed was actually how many things still needed to be automated, or more specifically, how much work some processes took that I thought should be much easier. So, for example, one of my first tasks was to go through this 20 Excel sheets and to get a little bit of data out of it and do some cost calculation. And the sad thing about this was that not only I had to do this, but also every other person at every other company that was doing this tender. So there was like 4 different companies doing exactly the same, very boring, very repetitive work. And this was actually, for me, the beginning that I got more interested in automating engineering workflows. So first I did this at Van der Herik for some years. And then I found out about VIKTOR, and I had the feeling that working at VIKTOR would give me an even bigger impact on the engineering community. Because I think VIKTOR is not only a platform to build and share applications, but it's also a collaboration between the engineering community for automating engineering processes. So that is, a little bit background of how I got here where I am now. And lately, I've been very interested in AI and large language models. So as you all know, that 2023 has been quite an exciting year in terms of AI. And it's been very much all about large language models. AI is now basically the same as large language models. And the development of these techniques have been going very quickly. So I've been building some apps, and every few weeks there's a new release on some kind of feature that I can implement in my app straight away. So it's very exciting times. I think we're just at the beginning of it. So that was a short introduction about myself. But today you're here for the webinar on leverage AI in your engineering workflows with VIKTOR and large language models. So just to make sure we're on the same level, large language models ChatGPT is a large language models, and so there are more different types of large language models, but I'm only going to refer to large language models from now on. So the agenda today is, first I'm going to present some challenges you have as an engineer. Then I'm going to talk about what is a large language model. Then I'm going to go a little bit more detail of how you can use them. Then I'm going to demo the document searcher app, which I guess most of you have already seen. And then I'm going to go a little bit more detail of use cases for engineers. And then at the end, I will tell why VIKTOR is actually a good platform to work with large language models. Yeah, so just a statement to start with. In engineering, most communication is text. Whenever you start a new project, you probably have some map on your SharePoint full with documents about the project, with anything from environmental things or technical details, maybe some internal documents. It's just a lot of it. And that also brings some challenges. So most importantly, the volume of documentation can be tremendous, especially when you just get into the project. You can sometimes feel a little bit lost. And yeah, sometimes I also have the feeling that they just throw as many documents at you as they can, just so they have provided you with sufficient information. But this can actually cause that you don't read it, you don't read everything, or yeah, you don't, and especially, for example, the tender phase can be very important to make sure you have seen all the important details. You don't want to miss anything either. So this is just something that can take a lot of work. Yeah, so that is the challenge. The opportunity for large language models lies in documents, because yeah, that's a big challenge, as I just mentioned. But there's also some other use cases where I see some possibilities. For example, in model generation. In the end, a technical model is also based on text. So you can think of a model in Civil 3D or whatever application you're using. There's always some kind of text involved, which you could use a large language model for to help you in your workflow. Then there's, of course, software development. Myself, I also use it quite a lot to write my code. Makes it a lot easier, especially for just getting started. For the more simple things, asking ChatGPT is very helpful and can get you started very quickly. And then data conversion and translation. So you also have to deal with a lot of different data types, and you want often to connect one data type to another data type. And yeah, it's quite hard to set it up programmatically, but in this also LLMs can assist. So this is a tremendous opportunity in engineering. Yeah, but before we go into the examples, I would like to tell a little bit more how it works, because I also believe that if you have a better understanding of how it works, you can also find more use cases yourself. So the idea of a large language model is that, first of all, everything is text. And what they did at OpenAI is that they collected a huge database of text, and they put a machine learning model on it to train it. And yeah, it's really you can see it as that from the start that humanity started writing, we collected all our information into text, and it's been collected over hundreds of years, and this is now condensed into one single entity. And yeah, so it took a long way for us to get here, but now we can really use this in a clever way. Yeah, there's just so much information out there, but usually getting to the right information is the challenge. And what's quite interesting about the model is that the GPT is now actually better in specifically trained machine learning models. And what I mean by that is that traditionally you would collect a database, for example, for chemical engineering. You put that in a machine learning model, and then you can start asking questions about it. But just by adding so much text and so much information, ChatGPT is now actually better capable in asking questions about specifically trained machine learning models that are, yeah, so it's really quite interesting because it has capabilities that we don't even know of. So everyone is still discovering what it can do. And that you can also see that all the research articles are from 2022 or later, which means how this technique is still very new. So yeah, they don't even know themselves what you can do with it, which is interesting. So how it works, it actually works very much similar to how a human brain works. It's a deep neural network. Without going into too many technical details, it's basically billions of parameters that have connections to each other and are related in a position towards each other. And that position determines in the end the result. So how it actually works is that it computes the probability of the next word based on all the previous words. So if you enter a sentence, then it will know the highest probability of the next word. So if you enter a question at ChatGPT, for example, you see that it streams the result. So it shows the result word by word. And that is not just a trick to make it look nice, but it's actually how it works. So it calculates your story or your answer bit by bit. Yeah, that's basically how it works. Yeah, so then I will tell something about our document reader application. So the difference, first of all, is that when you would search through your documents in a traditional sense, you would use keywords. So you like Ctrl F and you put in some keywords and you see if you find it, and if you're lucky you do, but if you don't get anything. And it's been like that for forever, basically. Also, when you type in Google something, you really have to think like, what are good keywords to look for? You cannot really write a sentence as you would talk to a friend or a colleague. And that changes with large language models. And that is called semantic search. Semantic search is basically that your question is not answered by keywords, but it is answered by its context. So it takes in your whole question, and based on that, it can find any information related to that question. Basically the same as you would think as a normal human being. That, yeah, when you ask a question, you always thinking about context. So here's a simple example. So when I would look for Apple in my document, I would find some keywords related to or exactly matching Apple. But now you could also search for a tasty fruit that is usually red. Then it should also find the apple in your document. Or in this case, a tech company which makes a lot of money, then you could also find the company Apple. I think this is specifically valuable because, yeah, you cannot always know all the synonyms they're using in a text, and this way you can you're still able to find it. So I'm going to show a few examples. So I prepared prepared some documents. Also, it's a few questions. So for the people who haven't seen the app, yeah, it's quite simple. You upload your documents here. So I've uploaded 3 documents here related to a tender for a dike reinforcement in the Netherlands, in Vlieland. And then you submit the documents. Basically, what it does then is it does some indexing, so the LLM can find the right information, and then you can ask any question about it. But now the question is being processed by the app, and it's sent to our Azure AI. Excuse me. This is the answer we get. So the documents are actually in Dutch, but you can ask questions about it in English, and it will answer in English, which is also quite nice, I think. Maybe, yeah, you don't always speak the language of the documents. Yeah, and so you get an answer, and you also get the sources on which it based the answer. So this is just the text that it found that is related to the question. And then it will try to answer the question based on these sources. So you can always check if the information makes any sense. And also, yeah, you can just go to the page of the document itself and see if maybe there's more information related to this subject. Then I have another question prepared. Oh. So just some common questions you would find in pretty much any project. Here you can see that it did find the information about working hours and could say that you can only work between 7 and 7. Also nice is the magic question. Probably won't work if everyone asks it. Actually, it doesn't know, but it's very safe in answering. So yeah, fortunately, no hidden insights about the contractor. Yeah, so that's a demo about this document searcher. And I want to explain a little bit more what's actually happening in the background. So the benefits of a custom model are that there are some restrictions. So you could ask, like, why you would not just use ChatGPT to do this. Now it can also accept documents, and yeah, it can do quite some stuff, but still there are some limitations. And that's when you want to look at making your own custom model. And then you can also introduce some techniques, which I will discuss here. So one of the techniques I use, for example, is chaining, which basically means you send multiple prompts in a row. And this is necessary because I actually noticed in the app that I'm working with Dutch documents here, and I would like that the answer is always in the same language as the question asked. So for example, now I got an answer in English because I asked my question in English. But if I would enter my question in Dutch, it would also give me the answer in Dutch. And the reason it does it is because I added this technique called chaining. So you think that looking at the app is just one prompt, but actually there's two prompts. So the first prompt is actually just tell me which language this is. And then it sends the user input and it retrieves the language. So I would say, so how do I win this tender? And then I send it to ChatGPT and says, what language is this? And it says, oh, this is in English. So it sends back English. And this information is then used for the second prompt, which is actually like, try to answer this question in this language, and then it enters English. So this is a technique to improve the quality of the model, because sometimes there are some limitations. The other technique I used is it's called retrieved augmented generation, or RAG. And this is basically a technique that is used when you run into the model limits. So actually here I can show that the limitations of a large language model is that you have a limited input. So in our example, we have this document which has maybe thousands of pages. But we can only enter maximum 6,000 words at a time, or 12 pages approximately. And actually, it's not possible to enter the whole document and ask a question about it. So what is actually happening in the background is that the document is split into all these different chunks, which are shown as the sources. And then, based on the question, the most relevant sources are found. And then these are entered with your question to answer your question. So if we go back to the example. So yeah, this is not the best example, but here it says, how do I win this tender? And then it found these sources. So these are actually the chunks of text that is used to answer this question, and it will refer to it as the provided context. So this is a technique you can use when you have a very large database, when you have a lot of documents, which you would like to answer, get your questions answered to. So there are some more use cases you can think of as an engineer. So in this case, the document search is quite simple. You just have your documents, you ask a question, you get your answer. But you can think that maybe in your project or tender, you are going through the same questions every time. And maybe you have a desired output already in mind, like I want to report on the environmental information, or maybe you want to do something with the cables present in the area, some gas pipes. Maybe you want to check for endangered species, or you could basically make a whole list of things you want to be aware of when you're going to do a project. And you could actually program this say you go through this list, through all the documents, and report everything you can find. So I think that would be very nice addition to the document searcher. You could use it every project to get a kickstart in your project. Another thing I was thinking about is data conversion. So I also have a small example. For example, you're doing a dredging project and you get like this PDF. And it's, it basically provides some information about the soil. And for example, if you're going to do some dredging, you want to know like how much clay is coming out, how much sand. But the problem is that usually, or quite often, you get the documents in a format you can't really work with, because it's a PDF, so you can only view it, but the computer cannot calculate with it. And these are traditionally quite difficult to handle as a developer. You say, why not do it in Python? But the problem is that there's always, so they're like sort of the same, but not exactly the same. So you have all these small changes in the documents. So this is just one example, and this is made by some company. But every company has like different layouts or different, maybe a lot of small differences. And that is so, and when you have that pattern, so you have things that are almost the same, but not exactly the same, it's very difficult to program. But that is when you start looking at AI. So this is actually something I believe large language models would be very good at. You could train it at such data that when I put in a PDF, that it gives me a nice table, Excel, whatever, with data I can actually use. I think there's many more examples to be thought of. Another case would be summarizing documents. So that would also be an extension on the document searcher as it is now. So you could actually ask it to summarize a document now, but the results won't be of very high quality because it can only look at a small part of the document at a time. So if you ask it now, like summarize this document, it will actually look for a summarization within the document and then give a summarization of that, which is not what you want. But you could use some techniques that maybe you summarize every 10 pages, and then you summarize all the different summarizations and so on. So that could be a nice addition, and could also extend it to you can extend to more data types. So one thing I was also thinking about is to make, for example, structural model, even partly in Python, or if you have some resources on it, then you can put that into the model, train it, and get your results more quickly. So you can, you don't have to start from scratch every time, but you can just say like, I want a building with approximately this and this. And then it will give you a base to start with. And then all the very specific kind of detailing, you still have to do yourself. But I think just getting the base to start with is already very valuable. So that's basically the text is more than documents. And I also have some more examples I want to show with this. So one of our developments has been just as an interface. So we have made a couple of apps running with Azure AI on the background. And chat as interface is one of them. So the idea behind this app is that traditionally in a Victor app, you have number fields, text fields, whatever. You have a lot of buttons you have to fill in. So the idea is that we replace everything by a conversation. So we just talk to a chatbot, and the chatbot is then given instructions to collect the data from the user. And once it's collected, it will input it into the model and create a model. So the first question it proposes, like, I would like to make a building. What information should I provide? Then I send this to the model, and it's gonna come up with an answer. So first it says, we need to give the amount of floors. It's like, okay, let's do 12 floors. And this also supports, like, you could enter words or numbers or different languages or green. So that's okay. We have chosen building 12 floors, color green. And it built our building. And yeah, you can count the floors if you don't believe me, but it's really 12 floors. Yeah, so this is just like a simple example, of course, but I'm sure you can think of many more applications where this could become in handy. Then I also have the VIKTOR app. So this app is actually created to make developing apps on VIKTOR easier. Because not every engineer has all the time in the world to learn Python and then also learn VIKTOR. So we would like to make that easier with this AI assistant. And here I put some sample questions, and it's so in the background this also uses some of the techniques I just discussed. So it gathers documentation from the VIKTOR website, and it combines that with the general knowledge it has about Python, because it's actually trained a lot on Python. So it's quite good in programming. And here, and then you get this app, and you can just copy paste this and run this as an app, and you'll get a 3D beam with some parameters. So this is quite nice. We're still developing this to make this better. Have some ideas, and I think in the end this could make the life of the VIKTOR developers a lot easier. Yeah. So why would you use VIKTOR for building your applications with large language models? So at VIKTOR we have both the experience working with large language models and engineering. I think that's quite a unique combination. So really do use that knowledge we have, and then we can build many more nice applications. So you can make quite a powerful app using all these techniques on the background, and you can see as a user it's very easy to use. You just answer your question and you get your answer. So and of course we have our enterprise ready distribution platform with all the ISO certifications and everything you need within a big company. So if you would start developing an app, you can easily share it with all your colleagues without too much friction. So we don't use ChatGPT itself. We use Azure AI, which is a big difference. So when you use ChatGPT, it uses your data to train the model. When using Azure AI, it does not. So your data is safe. It's not being used anywhere. And it's just, you just use the model and that's it. You get your answers. So I think that's also very important to note here. And VIKTOR is based on Python. So most development in artificial intelligence is actually done in Python. VIKTOR is based purely on Python, so it's just a very good match. It was for me quite easy to use the APIs of Azure and to build this app. So yeah, it's easy to start. So what's next? So this concludes my talking within this presentation. I really hope you enjoyed it. So what you can do now is you can get the document reader for free in your own environment by either going to this QR code or to the link in the chat. So please sign up and we will be in contact about the app. And I'm also curious, we have some time left for questions and answers. So yeah, I'm very curious if there's any questions.
Yeah, there are questions. Maybe you can look into the meeting chat.
Yeah.
Are you able to look into it?
Okay, we'll start.
Maybe we can start with the last question. If you published an app like this using OpenAI API, always use the API key.
Yeah, so we currently offer our clients temporarily that you can use the Azure AI key, but we encourage clients to get their own Azure AI key. This is actually very easy, like it's just 10 minutes of work if you're already a client in Microsoft. So does it always use your API key? No, and does not always use our credit. So if you're wondering about credit specifically, the cost is actually very low. Like, yeah, just a couple euros max. So that's not something, it's mostly just getting your IT department as far as asking the key.
I think the question of Emil is also interesting. So you basically built a front end for ChatGPT.
Yes, so in the most simple case, you could indeed just use a front end for ChatGPT. And on top of that, I built a bunch of custom logic. As I said, like the chaining, for example, and the retrieval of information. But you could theoretically mimic this in ChatGPT, but of course that's not very user friendly. Then you have to go to the document yourself, paste in the information specifically, and yeah. So it's basically it's an extension on the logic of on the front end of ChatGPT. Yeah. So here's a question that says, are you able to pre-upload documents, or do you need to upload documents each time you use the tool? So no, you don't need to upload it each time. That's the difference between the public app and the app in your environment. So if you have it in your environment, then you can upload it and save it, and then yeah, it is there forever. So. And is there any limit on the amount of documents that can be uploaded? No, there's no limit.
Maybe you can also show how you store a project, because you just went into the document searcher. But maybe you can also show the step before that you can make a project.
Yeah.
So I got a separate question for that.
Yeah, so this is actually, if you open the app, this is where you come into the app. Here you can make a new project. Then you click on it, and then you just get here again. So you can have as many different projects. You can organize in any way you want. You could even do it more nested if you like. That within a project you have more projects. Or is there any size limitation for the document? Okay, so I haven't actually. So I think the biggest document was around that size and it worked. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. So please let me know. I'll look into it. It should be possible.
That was regarding the big size document.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Multiple documents be compared with each other. So that's in the current setup. I did not include it, but yeah, you could extend it, and then it would be possible. I guess yeah, it depends really on what kind of documents, how different are they, and yeah. So it's possible. It's not in the app yet.
I think the last question of Vince Bergkamp is also interesting.
Is the data that you upload available for all the other users of VIKTOR or ChatGPT? No. So it's only available to yourself and your company. Does the model train on the data and questions that are uploaded? Yeah, so also no, it's not trained or it's not trained on the questions or the data. So that's very important, of course, if you have documents that they should be confidential and yeah, using the Azure AI, OpenAI, I mean Azure AI API. This ensures that your data is safe. Can you upload all kinds of documents, even the scanned secured ones? So it can only recognize text. So basically, if there's no text inside the PDF, it cannot recognize it.
Maybe you can elaborate on that. We are doing research in this field as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we are doing some research on this, which is related actually to images of technical images to recognize the patterns and objects within these pictures. So we are doing research on this. Also, I would probably advise if you have scanned documents, you probably want to do some kind of character recognition first. Yeah, so if you have done that, then you can enter it. Can you hook into SharePoint, say that it automatically loads any document in a certain directory, which then can be searched? I guess this would be possible, yeah. It would have to make some kind of connection with your SharePoint, so you need to make sure you can set up a safe connection. But yeah, I think this would be possible. Yes.
I think the question of Enrique is also nice. Is the code openly available? Maybe you can share the community part.
On the community forum.
Yeah, we are also working on making this available.
Yeah. So we have the community forum. So we try to collect these kind of questions in our community forum. I think we put it here. Yeah, so I already put some parts of the source code here. So here it's explaining like how the app works in more detail. And yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, so if they eventually want to use the app and implement it in their environment, they also get the source code from our side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I guess it's available, so fill in the contact form, I guess, and then we'll be in touch. Okay, so that's nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's for the person that asked for the benchmark. He has a good reference already. Maxime, he's made a similar app within Victor. He has some nice additions on it as well, actually. And so yeah, the users. It's nice to hear that the users are happy with it. All right. Well, if there's no more further questions, then I'm gonna wrap this up. And if some questions do come up, you can of course contact us via the forum that Ananda just shared. So please do sign up there. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention and for attending. From my side, I thought it was very nice to share these ideas. I hope it inspired you to make your own LLM apps or have some ideas where you would like to have them. Yes, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.